On the 28th of May 2012, Iran announced the most crippling computer virus ever written had been detected on computers in Iranian government offices. Iran's Computer Emergency Response Team, Maher, announced on its official website that the flame virus had been intercepted and its infection components posted on their website. A few days later, on June 1st, the New York Times published an article by David Sanger that blew the lid off a lot of secret information. It revealed just how involved the US and Israel are in the global cyber war, especially when it comes to the cyber attacks against Iran. In it, it explained how US President Barack Obama ordered a covert cyber attack on Iran a few months after taking office. The article was the result of 18 months of research and information gathered from interviews with top current and former American, European and Israeli officials. The first wave of digital attacks against Iran happened during the presidency of George W. Bush. They were codenamed the Olympic Games. According to the participants in the program, it was the first sustained use of cyber weapons. Since then, the Stuxnet virus has invaded systems at Iran's nuclear power plant, and now flame. In this program, we will be looking at the cyber war being waged as we speak. On the 28th of May 2012, Reuters reported that a data-snatching computer virus called Flame had infected thousands of systems in the Middle East. In the past 5 years, the virus had been spreading undetected. A cyber war was underway. The source of the virus is still unknown. Besides Iran, Kaspersky, a Russian multinational computer security company, also stumbled upon Flame while going over reports related to the Wiper virus that had invaded Iran's internet network. For more, we spoke to Vitaly Kamluk from the Kaspersky company.
So we inquired to find this mysterious malware which is responsible for making damage to a huge number of computers. So we started looking at all suspicious activity in the region of Middle East and tried to find some with already known threats that were used in that region. And we tried to pay attention to all the artifacts which we knew by that moment, and this is how we found one suspicious file that later was linked to some executable modules to the applications, which turned out to be quite a big threat. It was a new undetected malware, and it seemed to be not related to the initial target of search, which was Wiper, but in spite of that, it was still quite interesting because it seemed to be well developed and very professional and must have been used for targeted attacks in the region.
The sheer scale of Flame's destructive capabilities has baffled major computer companies worldwide. To understand the issue more, we spoke to Mr. Ali Abbasnejad, the CEO of the Kehkeshan-e-Noor IT company.
This is the first time the world has seen a virus like Flame. In the 20 years we've had viruses, there's never been another so complicated as this one. Flame's 20-megabyte fingerprint shows it was designed to be an all-encompassing tool. It wasn't designed to be a virus only. Most viruses are about 20 to 30 kilobytes, but this virus is much, much bigger, about 100 times bigger. We can conclude that Flame was not designed and created by an ordinary group. A lot of expertise is behind it. And from the signature on the virus, we can tell it took a long time to make. To do this, you need a team of experts and the right facilities. It's unlikely any entity would invest so much money in a virus that was only meant to do a little damage.
هم تیم خبره‌ای داره که معمول نیست در دنیای سکیوریتی و
Until only a few weeks ago, none of the world's top 49 antivirus software had been able to detect Flame.
در مورد ویروس فلیم نکته خاصی که وجود داره
Flame would select its victims and choose its routes carefully. It was transported via small portable devices like flash memory sticks, but it was constantly controlled by the CNC servers it recognized. It chose which computers it wanted to infect.
The reason why it was not detected for such a long time, there are actually several reasons. First of all, Flame attacked very limited number of users within specific geographical region, so it was not widespread and did not get into attention of antivirus researchers. So very few systems were picked by a targeted attacker and infected. And it wasn't widespread, and it didn't get into our lab. And of course, when it was used, when it was spread within the region, the attackers could check and make sure that that malware at that moment was not detected by any existing antivirus. So of course they made their checks and then they used the malware. Another reason is that Flame actually checks for the presence of antivirus software on the system before executing some serious actions. And if it finds any antivirus solution, any security solution, then if it recognizes something already known, then it tries to behave more accurately, more silent, and not to execute any risky steps that can trigger behavior-based engines or heuristics of the antiviruses. So this is the way how it escapes any detection of generic technologies such as a heuristical detection engine.
The statistics and reports show Flame's main target was Iran. It was detected on Iranian systems 185 times. 95 attacks have been reported in the occupied Palestinian territories, which seem to be targeting Palestinian resistance groups in Gaza. 32 attacks were reported in Sudan and 29 attacks in Syria. Former hacker Behruz Kamalian is now the CEO of a security company called Ashiane. He says the main target of the Flame and Stuxnet viruses was Iran.
ورم فلیم یا استاکسنت هدف اصلیشون کشور ایران بوده.
The Flame and Stuxnet viruses were meant for Iran, and besides Iran, they did infect systems in a few Arabic countries on a much smaller scale. Flame was designed to infiltrate the computer systems at Iran's oil industry, which for our country is a very important industry strategy-wise. The rumors and guessing games going on the net are all because of that. These worms are much more complicated than previous ones. They can do 30 different things, whereas the old ones could only do one thing. It is possible that these viruses were designed by teams in the US with the help of others in Israel.
For a virus like Flame to work, someone has to plug in an infected USB flash drive. The carrier might not even know that he's got the Flame virus on his flash, which he probably picked up from the internet. Once this super smart virus finds its target, it sets to work. Mr. Mohammad Mehdi Shobeiri, who represents the Panda Security antivirus vendor in Iran, says Flame has the ability to recruit other viruses when it needs to.
ویروس یه تعاریف خاص خودش رو داره. The virus has a specific usage and definition. Flame is a package that can do many and varied things. You could say we're up against a control panel. With viruses, we are dealing with a code that has certain predetermined functions. And yes, maybe different technologies have been used to create it. But when it comes to flame, we see a virus that is more like a tool capable of utilizing other tools to achieve objectives that are constantly changing. It will adapt itself to any new target or objective its designers give it.
The flame virus eavesdrops on computer users and steals information in a variety of ways. It takes screenshots, turns on the computer's microphone and records audio, logs keystrokes, detects passwords and intercepts Bluetooth communication with other devices. All this information is then sent to the CNC servers listed in its coding system, and it is a very resilient bug. It can cripple more than 100 antivirus software, anti-malware and firewalls.
When it infects a computer, it activates its Bluetooth system and starts searching for other devices. It can access mobile phones in the vicinity and copy their contact lists. It then sends that information to its servers via VPN.
The flame virus first infiltrated the computer systems at Iran's Khark oil terminal and then the oil company's internet and telecommunications network. Iran's oil company was forced to shut down the internet connection at all its branches. The damage flame caused was considerable.
ارزشی که میشه روی اطلاعات محرمانه که ویروس فلیم تاکنون دزدیده گذاشت واقعاً قابل اندازه‌گیری نیست.
We cannot put a price on the information the flame virus has managed to steal. That information might have been top secret data. We don't know what flame has taken out of the country. But we can assess the damage flame did by making our systems inaccessible. Some of the systems flame infected completely crashed. They couldn't be used anymore. By doing this, the virus wanted to make its presence known and self-destruct. So it had taken all the information it wanted.
Kaspersky researcher Alexander Gostov has said that it's highly unlikely such a sophisticated piece of malware could have been made by a group that did not have the backing of a nation state.
The way flame worked shows a much bigger entity made it. It wasn't a small group or individual. The tools flame used, like Wiper, are proof of that. It is quite likely a government was behind the creation of such tools.
An interesting observation in this regard is that of Israel's Vice Premier, Moshe Yaalon. In an interview with Army Radio, he hinted that Jerusalem was behind the cyber attack, saying, "Israel is blessed to be a nation possessing superior technology. These achievements of ours open up all kinds of possibilities for us, and whoever sees the Iranian threat as a serious threat would be likely to take different steps, including these, in order to hurt them." And as for the US, Senator John McCain has criticized President Barack Obama for leaking information about Stuxnet. Again, we see these leaks to the media about ongoing operations, which is incredibly disturbing. Doesn't this give some benefit to our adversaries? This comment by Senator McCain confirms that the Stuxnet virus was indeed Washington's doing.
Mr. McCain is verifying that his government is in fact behind all this. That in itself has prompted reactions across the US itself. A committee has been formed to look into the matter and see whether it was part of a campaign strategy or these are all just fabrications.
Flame was not the first computer virus to be used against Iran. In 2006, as the US-led invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq raged on, the Stuxnet virus hit Iran. According to David Sanger's article in the New York Times, Washington was too caught up with full-on war to attack Iran, so it started a cyber war against the Islamic Republic for the time being. Sanger explains how Dick Cheney urged President Bush to consider a military attack on Iran, but Washington decided the time wasn't right. Then General James E. Cartwright joined forces with intelligence officials to present Bush with a radical idea, a cyber war against Iran. The United States NSA and Israel's Unit 8200 teamed up to develop the enormously complex computer worm that later came to be known as the Stuxnet. In 2010, it accidentally became public because of a programming error that allowed it to escape Iran's Natanz nuclear plant and spread around the world.
The Stuxnet worm infected the industrial systems being used in Iran's nuclear power facilities. By doing so, it managed to make a certain pump inside the system inflate too much and then explode. That made the industrial system, that was in no way a computerized system, break down.
According to Sanger, the Stuxnet virus temporarily took out nearly 1,000 out of the Natanz plant's 5,000 centrifuges. Michael V. Hayden, the former chief of the CIA, says this is the first attack of a major nature in which a cyber attack was used to effect physical destruction. The level of destruction Stuxnet caused was immense, but the experts say Flame is on a whole new level.
In the Stuxnet case, we were looking at a code with a specific objective. It targeted certain systems. It sent some of the information on those systems outside the country and got some feedback that instructed it to cripple that system. But Flame doesn't have a specific code. Flame can help another virus like a Stuxnet or any other virus and malware. It can use them as tools to reach its objectives.
Via computer viruses, certain entities are causing physical damage to systems in other countries. This is an act of espionage that violates another country's sovereignty and causes millions of dollars of damage. So can such actions be considered acts of war, or are they just cybercrimes?
The cyber war is a new concept that's just entered the international narrative. We had cold wars and hot wars, and now we have cyber wars in the virtual world. Real wars happen in the physical world and cyber wars in the virtual world. The real and virtual worlds have been linked.
کشورهای متعددی هم ارتش سایبری دارند.
Many countries have cyber armies. They announce this via the media. For instance, in Russia, the seriousness of cyber war is second only to nuclear warfare. China has a very equipped cyber military, and so do the US and Israel. So the general attitude towards the whole thing is warlike. The aggressor doesn't officially announce that it's launched a cyber attack or who its target is.
Lawyer Nargis Qureshi wrote her thesis on cyber warfare. We asked her to give us the legal perspective on cybercrimes like this.
The international strategies hammered out to ensure security in cyberspace that were drawn up by the United States do regard any cyber attack as a war crime. A cyber attack is seen as a violation of U.S. soil, and Washington does give itself the right to launch a counterattack, even a military one.
But can Iran counter the cyber attacks against it by filing a complaint? Is there any international body that has the power to follow up on such a case and have the perpetrators stand justice?
From a legal standpoint, Iran has many options when it comes to the cyber attack it's been hit with. The first step might be to take the case to the UN Security Council. Article 37 and 36 and Chapter 7 of the UN Charter provide for this. Any country can refer such cases to the UN Security Council, especially Iran, that has become a victim of cyber attacks. Depending on the severity of the attack, the Council can put it down as a threat to peace or an outright violation of sovereignty.
But other experts say because no major event or tragedy has been caused by cyber attacks and cyber war, the urgency hasn't been felt to define it or define the laws that will punish such acts. Prominent lawyer Nirmat Ahmadi predicts this will have to happen soon.
The destruction cyber wars could cause might be far worse than nuclear warfare. Imagine if there were an electricity failure on an airplane, or if the banking system became a target. So mankind will have to form an international organization or foundation to define cyber warfare, like it has with other types of war. It has to be decided what is or isn't allowed. The systems being used to control dams and industries could be knocked out. The two viruses, Stuxnet and Flame, they have already done a lot of damage. Imagine what will happen if they get into other systems. The world will have to establish an international organization for this.
The question is whether Iran can make a formal complaint against the US. The laws we have now are for the real world. We don't have an international justice system for matters related to cyberspace. Taking from laws made for the real world, lawmakers have to regulate cyberspace too, especially those cybercrimes that affect the real world.
Cybersecurity is a matter of national security, which if violated could do considerable harm. Because of this, certain nations have created a new military unit that focuses specifically on countering cyber attacks. So the question is whether Iran would be legally justified if it were to consider an equal and opposite reaction, either via cyberspace or militarily. Mr. Ahmadi says the answer to that is yes.
If someone is attacked, they have the right to defend themselves. It's natural. When we are attacked and the attacks claim the lives of our scientists, I see no reason why we shouldn't defend ourselves. The root of the problem hasn't been addressed by the law yet, but cyber attacks are happening, so there are going to be counterattacks.
War has taken many forms down the ages, getting progressively more intense and destructive. Now a new age has begun, the age of cyber wars that some say could do more damage than atomic bombs. The Stuxnet attack on Iran's Natanz nuclear plant signaled the beginning and then followed Flame. These were Washington's first attempts at cyber attacks outside its own borders, and Iran is the first nation so far that has really had to consider what the appropriate response to such attacks is, especially as international bodies are yet to tackle this new threat head-on. The dimensions and scope of cyber warfare are still not very tangible for most people. The US may be the frontrunner in this form of assault, but now it's out there, Washington has very little control over what it will morph into and who else will master it.